Welcome to Civitai.com, the home of the generative AI art community. If you enjoy this video, please consider hitting us with a like and subscribing, as it'll go a long way in helping us continue to bring you the highest quality AI community content. Please enjoy the video. Yeah, it's kind of crazy that every time we go live, like we average between 700 and like 1,200 viewers every stream.
Geez. I actually didn't know what the what kind of viewer count I was expecting. So I'm used to getting like, what is it, like 20 viewers, and I'm pumped. And I thought that was pretty good, and I'm gonna argue that is pretty good. You know,
it is like, pretty good
for some like random like no name guy. I was pretty proud of it. I think on my own, without getting hosted, the most viewers I ever got on my own was like 60 or something. And so when you say like 700, I'm like, well, I didn't really know like what kind of this is going to be like the most I think I've ever live streamed. I also haven't like live streamed like forever, you know.
Well, we're cheating a little too, because when we go live, the stream goes live on the front page of the site too.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah, so we're cheating a little bit there, but no, it's cool. We have a really solid group of guys from the community that come to every stream, and it's like between Ali doing the office hours every Monday and Wednesday, and then me doing mine on Thursdays and Fridays. Like, we have a really good, consistent flow going here. And then this helped us also start the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Because all the streams get put up on YouTube afterwards.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
I haven't really been paying attention to like the overall, like, the whole thing, you know what I mean? Because I actually don't even spend that much time on the front page, because I'm just trying to make stuff, you know? Like...
Hey, that is
realize it goes live on the front page.
That is probably a much healthier way to go about doing things. Making more than consuming is, yeah.
Oh, this is nice. So in this thing, I can see the chat from here, so I don't need to have the Twitch stream.
Yeah,
okay,
so
that's really convenient.
And this is aggregating all of it from like Twitch and YouTube and X and LinkedIn. But most people are going to be watching it on Twitch.
On Twitch, yeah.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
We're just going to give it about 2 more minutes. We're almost at 200 people in here. And yeah, man. Guys, I hope you all are as excited as I am, because we got the AXOLOTL overlord in here with us today. My man, Schmede.
Hello, everybody. I forgot to ask him this entire time we were talking, like how long does the stream usually go to?
We usually go for an hour.
Oh, it's like, that's a nice size. Like, because I was like, maybe I'll run. I could probably go on once we start talking about stuff. You know, we were just talking, like I just go off on a tangent and just start talking about whatever. I heard this.
Boom. All right. Well, it looks like we definitely have more than enough people in here. So, guys, welcome to a very special guest creator stream. Last week, we had on Ruben Fro, who is from the video production and VFX side of things. And this week, we are bringing it back to the community with my man, Schmede. For those of you that do not know, I pinned his profile link to the top of the Twitch chat. So if you're in here right now, click on his profile, go give Schmede a follow. Every incredible AXOLOTL image you see on Civitai probably comes from this guy's profile. It is absolutely insane. We're going to talk about that. But Schmede, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone, since this is also a face reveal for the people that know your work, and just let everyone know how long you've been doing this stuff. And then we'll get into talking about how you started, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I just do it for fun. I actually don't know when I started. I guess I'll have to look at when I first uploaded I just like don't remember. It's been a blur since I started, you know what I mean? Let me take a look here. So I would consider when I first started when I uploaded the first model. That was on March 25th of 2024. So not that long ago, huh? I don't know how long people have been doing this before I kind of got into it, but I heard there's like even Stable Diffusion XL was like my first one. And I've seen that there's like a 1.5 apparently. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you didn't even start in 1.5. You started
on XL. Yeah, I started at XL. Yeah.
Cool, man. So no, what did you either see, or like what really was your starting point to dive into all this? I'm always curious, like we all see something that was made with something AI that makes us go like, holy crap, that's cool. I need to learn how to do that. What was it for you that made you do that?
It actually wasn't how it all started, but this will like all tie into like, I guess, my origin story for, you made some pretty good images. Yeah. Right. I actually got into it because, my brother and I use Telegram, and on Telegram, there's a sticker pack, and it's just like these axolotls doing like, and they're just, to us, it was really, really funny. And then I found out like, the Microsoft one, I think it's like the Bing one, like you can just like type stuff in. I think it uses like a version of DALL-E, right?
Yeah.
So I started making pictures with those and sending it to him, and we thought it was really, really funny. Then I started doing something. It was like, let me make them like robbing a bank, or it was like, I mean, like technically, I guess it's a crime, you know. But it was just like I wanted them like they're making off with a bag of food or something from a bank, and then like Microsoft's thing like popped up, and it was like, oh, I'm sorry, that's like an unsafe generation. And I was like, what do you mean that's unsafe, dude? Like, I got so mad. I think back on it now, if they literally said like, okay, this might go against, like the way they phrased it, it actually, I was just like, it made me so, like, I was just like, what, how is this unsafe? Am I going to like poke my eye out or something? Like, what do you mean? You know, it was like, I felt so indignant. Like I was like, I have to figure out how to do this without Microsoft moralizing how I can represent an axolotl, you know? And then I started watching some videos, and I was like, okay, so I have to get this like thing on my computer, and then there's like Python. I still have no idea how any of that stuff works. I think I just barely managed to get it all run. And then I got Stable Diffusion like to actually run through Automatic 1111, and I'm like, sick, here we go. Now I can make whatever I want. And I like prompt an axolotl, and I'm like, it's just a pink salamander. I'm like, what the heck, dude? Like, you know what I mean? I went through like all this trouble. And then I was just like, okay, so like, where do I get models? And then like, by the way, I'm going to keep calling it Civitai AI because I'm just so used to calling it that.
It's all good, man. Civitai is in white, AI is in blue. Yeah. If people didn't call it Civitai AI, I think there's something wrong with that. It's all good.
Yeah, I realized like, that's not what you call it. Like, but you actually work there, so you're probably right. So I got all that running, and I was just like, this doesn't even look like an axolotl. Like, what the heck, dude? Like, and then I was like, is it the settings or something? It's like, no, it doesn't now. So I was just like, where do I get a model? Like, how does that even work? And I go on Civitai AI, and then I find an axolotl model. Some guy made one, but all it is just like low resolution pictures of real ones. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, cool. I can create like some picture of one that looks like my friend took a picture of one through a tank, like, you know, in low resolution, and send it to me. That's all I can do. It can't like work with anything else. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to train one myself, huh? And then like I made like a bunch that didn't even do anything. And then I finally got one that worked. And we were talking about this earlier. Then I was just like, oh, finally it works. This is perfect. I was so pumped. And I was like, I guess I'll upload it since I did all this work. And I uploaded it. And then like, I think it was like such a short amount of time. And then it got featured like right after I uploaded it. And
that's this one, right? The actual model,
the version 1 of it. Yeah. It's like the most deep fried, overtrained model like ever. Like I didn't realize it at the time because I was just prompting stuff I fed it. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, this is great. And then I saw some guy try to prompt one with a mustache, and the mustache didn't even show up. And I was just like, oh, that's like kind of like what, that's like my character development in my story arc, right? I'm just like, well, I just got featured. That's not right. I just like released a terrible model. I can't do anything except like, do exactly what I fed it, you know? So then I actually like tried to, and you'll see this is like the 4th one, right? So, and this 4th one, if we scroll over just one, right? The second one,
you got the mustache.
So I've gotten better at it, you know. So
I love how the mustache is what shows the evolution of how much better you've gotten at training.
Yep, I had to get that one, and then I knew, and it was like super easy too. So I was just like, and at that point I hadn't used the SDXL in like forever either. So I was like, man, I hope it shows up, or it's not gonna be good.
Do you still touch XL at all, or are you mostly focusing on Flux now?
I haven't touched XL in so long that I like kind of forgot like how to prompt it, you know, like so. But what was it? Like I wanted to. It's kind of like when people what I was saying earlier and like before the stream. People started like reaching out to me and then like collaborating, telling me like, oh, you can try this, you know, stuff like that. And that's kind of a thing I've never experienced before because I don't program, you know, I've never like messed with open source stuff before.
And did you have any type of art background at all prior to doing
just enough to graduate from college, you know? Like, but people were like giving me tips on like training for like, you know, Pony and like, because I wanted to update that one too, because that one I knew was like not good, you know? So I updated that one and I was just like, well, I should update, you know, the XL one, the original one. It deserves it, you know? And I hadn't used it in so long that I finally like got it trained and I was like, dude, how do I even prompt this like thing anymore, you know? I'm so used to typing like, that was a huge adjustment going from like Stable Diffusion XL to prompting in Flux, and people were like, "Dude, you can just type sentences in there." I'm like, "Nah, those are crazy. Let's just keep."
Dude, I love it, man. I do so much better with like normal language stuff than just putting in the keywords separated by commas.
Yeah, but yeah, I haven't used XL at all. What happened was, I think like after I retrained the Pony one, then I was just like, because that one was like definitely overtrained and deep fried, you know? And I was like, oh, I can finally try to do these like funny meme ones and it'll actually work. And it does, you know? And then I think at that point I was like, well, I should just retrain the Stable Diffusion XL one. So yeah, like some of the ones that like you're bringing up, you're bringing up now with the Pony one. I remember when I like first trained that one up and I was trying to make it match with like all of the fun ones that I wanted to try. I had so much trouble. And now that it's actually like, you know, working with other models. And then at that point I was like, well, I retrained the Pony when I retrained the SDXL one. I should just retrain the Flux one at this point, you know? So like, then I did that. And this one, because at that point I had learned a lot more about how to train for Flux in general. And I was like, I should just, I knew eventually I wanted like to just apply all that to the AXOLOTL one. And, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Which no, kind of building off of what you just said there. So between, because your first Flux LoRA was the AXOLOTL Flux, right?
Yeah. That was it.
Okay, so from that, what made you decide to take the stab at the gun, which I know which you mentioned to me prior to the stream was probably like where you had like a breakthrough?
Well, there's a step in between that. Like I've always, in Stable Diffusion, there's been like 3 attempts at doing a Stable Diffusion one for the night vision goggles that are just complete like nightmares, you know? Like I failed at that one so many times. That one was, I kept getting things where like, it was like overtrained on all the worst stuff, but not well trained enough on to making like the goggles actually show up correctly. And like, you had to generate, like I was doing all kinds of stuff, like making a workflow where it switched like models like halfway to like try to save the hands, which had always like messed up and stuff. Like I did all kinds of, like I had a workflow that did like, what was it called? Regional prompting. I was like, okay, just do the head for this one and then try to switch it all up. All kinds of stuff. So after I got that Flux one to work, and I was like, well, let me try the night vision one. The first, like this is the second version. The first one wasn't that good. So
gotcha.
When I understood that this was like a difficult one based off my first one anyways, because it was like basically not really, I know it wasn't as good as it could be considered compared to some of the stuff I'd seen out there. And I think that like concepts like this are just hard to train. But after I like did that first version of that one, then I was just getting annoyed with like, you know, whenever you want to make a generation of someone holding a gun, like most of the time it's just all messed up. So, and then like, even when it doesn't look completely messed up, it doesn't look like anything real. Interestingly, Flux on its own, there's like one pistol that it can get correct, like with like more than half the time. And it's like the 1911. It's probably because like, of all the media around it, it's like a pretty common gun in like movies and shows and stuff like that. But it never really gets a Glock correct on its own. So I didn't really see a point in trying to make a 1911 one because it can literally do it on its own. You can probably make one so it does it all the time correctly. I mean, you definitely can. But I was like, okay, if I understand this correctly, then I'll try it on the Glock because I feel like it never gets it correct. So that's what got me there, you know? So I was like, I felt like I got a better understanding after the first night vision one. And then I should attribute like the general idea. It wasn't my idea. I saw, it was a comment on another gun one. The guy was like, this is like what I did for my car one. And I can't remember the user's, like the guy's name off the top of my head, but like I saw that and I kept it in my mind and I was like, I was using GPT a lot and I was like, okay, well, this is my strategy and I want to draft up like my ideas. So then I have a whole captioning strategy around it. Because if what the guy was saying about how he did his car one sounded like it made sense, you know? And I think I saw on the, I've seen some people commenting around like the gun one where they say like Flux doesn't understand guns. And at this point, like a lot of my stuff is just like, it's speculation because I don't know this stuff for sure, you know? Like I'm not like, I don't understand this stuff at a technical level. But what I think is that it's not that Flux doesn't understand guns. It understands guns too well, and it understands all guns all at the same time because you'll just see like aspects of different like guns whenever you ask for like a different like type, you know? Like you'll ask for like a pistol and you'll see like parts of a Glock, you'll see parts of a 1911, you'll see parts of like a SIG in it. And I'm just like, it's not that it doesn't understand it. It just understands it too well. It just doesn't understand how to differentiate because they never taught it to differentiate because that makes complete sense, you know? So that's what you're fighting against is like this super baked in. Well, actually, let me back up. This is what I think is happening. Yeah, you like that one? that one's good. I made one where she's actually holding a Glock, and this guy I know was just like, "What, can you make her holding a hot dog?" And I was like, "Yeah, probably." And then I replaced every mention of a gun with a hot dog, and then we got that one. Yeah, it's actually the genius behind that is in the chat. I weep right there. That guy.
I wasn't.
50% responsible for that. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that as I was scrolling through them.
Yeah, you'll notice that the back of the Glock is anatomically correct, though. You know, like so. So how many did you have any failed attempts doing the Glock one, or was like your theory the first time pretty good? This one's first, but I also did like a lot of prep work for that one because I like really fleshed out like my like a strategy for it. I used ChatGPT in order to kind of like formalize like all of my thoughts, and I created a captioning strategy based around like the general idea that I saw in like the guy who dropped a comment about the car. He was saying that I never once mentioned it's an actual car in the captioning, you know? And if you want to, so we can probably go over to, I have like the article where I have some of the stuff laid out, but what it generally is. Well, actually, let me do this first.
Wait, real quick. I'm going to put the link to this article for everyone in the chat. So guys, in case you were not aware, Schmede actually wrote a detailed article with imagery and workflow stuff and exact everything on how he trains his LoRa's on Civitai. So go ahead and bookmark that link. I'm actually going to feature that right now so more people can see it on the homepage.
I appreciate that. Thanks, dude.
So yeah, I mean, I'll you tell me when to scroll through this thing and let's talk about it.
Well, the first thing I did was I just like proved like I could like my model like works correctly, you know? And I think that's like a good thing to do. So that's with like no like LoRa, and the prompt is like shown below. And you'll see that one of the problems, this is like the best test for something like this because the Glock looks different on either side. You know what I mean? So if I have an image where there's two of them and I have to see both sides of them, my model works if it's correct on both sides. And you can see that like Flux in general, whenever you do stuff like that, you see how like both of the ejection ports are like on, you know, they're mirrored, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Guns are made for right-handed people, so it should only be on our left side. So like you look at mine, you'll see that like if you scroll down here, right, you'll see that the ejection port is only shown when the barrel is pointing towards us on the left side, and it's not shown on the other side. And there's other details that it gets right as well, which is like when I noticed that it was getting those parts correctly, I was just like, okay, I think I can write at least about like the strategy behind captioning this stuff. And I think I've gotten that correct, So this is like, this is actually another one that's trying to do the Glock one. And you'll see that in this case that the ejection port is not visible on either side.
Gotcha.
The other thing is that like Glocks tend to be like boxier in the profile. This one is like slimmer. That's the big thing, is that you're fighting against like Flux's idea of a gun. And the Flux's main idea of a handgun is a 1911, which this one looks more like. And this is the last one that has the same problems as the first one. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's basically the same picture as the first one, So this, if we go down here, and you'll see that this is me proving that I'm just like running everything like together, and I'm being like, I was trying to be as objective as possible. Like I would actually slot in my keyword where it made sense in the prompt, and you can't really see it there. But and I would use the other people's keywords that they listed on their models, and I didn't include their names because I'm not trying to shame them. I'm just trying to basically prove a point, and this is me proving that down here.
Respectable.
Yeah. So, and then these are like all the parameters of the image, like the seed, the sampler, all that kind of stuff.
Where are you doing your LoRa training? What are you using?
For Flux, I've been using Civits because I never bothered like looking into how to do that locally. Yeah. So I made this with Civits.
Yeah. Awesome. We love to hear it.
So this is like because this is parts of it just to show you from like Glock's official site to prove like where all of these parts show up correctly. And what I'm saying here is that like I can reasonably like assume that everybody else was trying to train a Gen 4 because only Gen 5s have slide serrations up front. Like, this is from Glock's site. So that's how I know that like all of us are training like Gen 4s basically, because none of ours like show front slide serrations ever. And as we go down, like we'll see that this is like, so now I'm looking at a Gen 4. So what makes it like the different, what is it called? The visual aspects of a Glock on either side. What makes it distinct is that the Gen 4 and before, they only have the slide release on the left side, and on the right side, I'm flipping it back and forth. But on this side, you can see that there's the ejection port, and then there's the extractor as well. The crazy thing is like my model, like that loses the extractor when I have to fight with other models, but when it's on its own, it consistently gets the extractor, and that's like such a minor detail. I didn't even specifically caption it so that it was talking about like on the left side, like if it faces you, there's this, and this, When I saw that it was getting like it never like messed up the sides these features show up on, and the fact that it can show two of them like at the same time and then show like the different sides correctly, I was like, damn, that's a good model, like that's. And this is like the aspect that you often see with Flux in itself. This is like the front end of a 1911 with the barrel bushing.
Dude, it's so sick to hear how much attention to detail you've actually put into this. That I'm sure, and I'm maybe I'm just speaking for myself here, but I think most people just upon looking at it can acknowledge, holy crap, that's a cool gun, LoRa. It looks like a Glock, but seeing like all the little intricacies that you were able to capture in it that maybe someone that isn't so familiar with the gun wouldn't be aware of, I think it just makes it even that much more cool.
I appreciate it. Yeah. It was really cool to see it because I didn't expect it to be able to capture that fine detail. Right. This right here is like the front end of a 1911, which you'll see a lot from Flux on its own. And I'm very certain that like a large portion of the training data for Flux like included like a lot of 1911s, and they didn't specify what type it was, right? So it's just biased towards that. And you'll see like this one, I didn't realize how small it get cropped down, but basically like if you look back above, you'll notice that the front ends of the other ones look a lot like this. That's not like how it looks. It looks like that because Glocks don't need that, like the barrel bushing. So, and this is just like another image. So like, I mean, I have a bunch more, but like this is gonna like just to be like, hey, here's some more so it doesn't look super cherry picked. This one, like you can see that the other ones are getting it like the general kind of thing right, but mine gets it the most right. So in this one, like the Flux on its own is looking more like a Glock than it did in the previous one. But mine actually looks like a Glock, and then the other one like kind of turned it into like, and it mixes up the concept of like pistols and like carbines and rifles and stuff like that too sometimes, So it's not like really good at differentiating between that stuff.
Gotcha. And all the nodes in here, like you were just running the images for comparison in company, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was just like, basically here, I'm just like proving my point. I'm like, hey, I'm saying that I think I figured out like how to train this. Here's the proof, you know? Being like the best test I can do is like, I can show you against Flux itself, and I can show you against the models that I'm competing with, essentially, right? Without naming who they are.
So coming to the, if I'm jumping the gun here, just tell me. But coming to the captioning, so you're not using auto tagging?
No.
No. Okay.
I'll tell you what I'm doing. The first thing is like, there's a lot of people who've talked about like data selection. I'm sure there's people that know a lot more than I do. But for me, like one of the things is the specificity is what makes it effective. Like I made sure to grab specifically like Gen 4 looking Glocks, and they were all Glock 17s, right? Because like the different models have different like lengths and everything like that. And I originally wanted to do a specific model that wasn't as common, but then I had issues finding the training data. What I found there was the most of when it came to a Glock was, and I made sure it was stock, like no attachments or anything like that, because what I'm guessing is if I did some with a flashlight, some with like a red dot sight and stuff like that, those would end up looking like trash every time they showed up, and then I would not want them, and then like they would show up anyways, you know?
Gotcha.
So I specifically got like the same model from like, it's all across, like the entire data set is only Glock 17 Gen 4s, you know? So that was, I think one of the big things is just like not getting greedy. I got like really greedy with the night vision ones. I would do like the normal like binoculars, and I would do the like the quad nods as well. And that's like super greedy.
You're trying to do all of it. Yeah,
but that's really greedy, and I did it the second time, even though I knew it was greedy. Like it would work a lot better if I stuck to the binoculars. Like ideally, I would do like but there's not that many pictures of quad nods in different, you know, like so the issue is that everybody's wearing military gear for the most part when they're wearing it. So then there's like like what happens is like it learns that as a part of it as well. Like it's easier if we can find it in non-military settings, you know. But what I do is that I create I use a ChatGPT to create like an actual instruction prompt, and like I've included them as text files in the article. They're like like the nods one is like 5 pages long in Word, you know, but it's like it's an instruction prompt that I give to GPT so that way like it remembers like all of the rules better. I create a custom GPT off of that one. Because I've noticed that if you start a new chat and then you start like you tell what the strategy is, it forgets extremely quickly, and it'll still forget even if you give it a document like that. But it like retains a lot more of the instructions throughout the process. And what you do is you leave yourself like a spot where you know that it's got the concept, like it knows how to do it correctly. That you can go back and branch the conversation off on again. So that way, like you don't have to reteach it everything, you know. So that way, like I'm getting the consistent captioning. The main thing is like the concept. And the strategy where I'm capturing this stuff is mostly that when it comes to like an idea, and I think that there's certain concepts within Flux that are just really, really baked into Flux, right? Mm-hmm. And the whole point of a LoRa is to either introduce a new concept or it's to modify an existing concept. And modifying this existing concept is far more difficult than just teaching it a new one. So we're just going to sidestep modifying that concept, and we're going to pretend like we're teaching it a new one. So in the instruction prompt, I say you're not allowed to mention any of those things. You can't say Glock, you can't say gun, because if you type in Glock, like Flux knows it's a gun. It'll never make the Glock correctly, right? So like you have to find out what it even like, what things around it are like strongly associated, and you have to avoid all of those things. You just say that like I give it the keyword. In this case, it's like G17 model, because that one doesn't mean that much to Flux on its own.
Yeah.
And then like, I never once say any of these words in my captioning, right? But then I lie about my keyword on my model page because I tell people to type Glock G17 model pistol, right? So after the training, after the captioning, when it's trained, you can actually bring that stuff back in. Sometimes is what I've learned, not all of the time. Like what I've learned now is like sometimes it helps a lot more just to like help it, like cause it goes, well, like I need to make a gun now, and then like I tell it like to use my keyword, and it almost kind of goes like, oh wow, that was easy, you know, and then it just puts the Glock where it's supposed to, you know.
That's so this is the first time I've ever heard anything with training explained in that way. So even though Flux understands, like, if you type in Glock, it'll give you a gun. It at least knows the Glock is a gun.
Yeah.
So for what you are actually trying to put in, you just want to make sure that whatever the keyword or the trigger word you're using is the model doesn't understand.
Yeah. I'm saying I'm teaching it a new thing, you know?
Okay.
And what the cat, like, if you look at the like, you don't have to look at it here, but I'll just describe it because it's really long. Mm-hmm. What we do is we help it to understand, like, well, this is like, you know, I'm not technical. This is like my assumptions, but like I get the results. So then I'm like speculating this stuff. But what was I going to say? Like I help the training, like help Flux understand like what it is by saying like it's in their hands. They're holding it this way. It has a matte black finish, but I never say that it's a gun. I never say that it's like a pistol. I never say it's a Glock, you know? So then like that, I feel like that way it can more quickly like pick up like what I'm talking about. And then like, once it's fully trained, never knowing it's a gun, right? Then I ask for a gun again, and it's almost like it is easier for it to like, you know, like create it. Now, there's that's not always true. And one of the things that ever since I started doing this is I actually try to find like what the best keyword or like the trigger is to put for the model page, because it's not what I told it, you know? Sometimes it is only what I told it, but part of it is testing, like when you test the epochs, now I'm also testing like different trigger words that I might tell people to use as well. And one of the things that I find interesting, and I'll use the nods one, is I think like Chrononate started making some like crazy like quad nod generations with that model, but he hit me up and he was saying that I'm having trouble getting this to show up. And I'm like, yeah, I can have trouble if you're using like another LoRa. And he was using like, I think like 4 or 5 like different LoRas. And I was like, yeah, it's gonna have a hard time doing all 4, because that's the concept that it like struggles the most with, when you had to fight like 4 like other LoRas or 3 or how many other he had. And what I say, like the real captioning for this one was I never even mentioned it was a helmet. Like I don't even want to fight that concept. I say it's a protective headpiece. You know,
gotcha.
I tell people and the thing is just like most people aren't using 5 different LoRas and stuff. But if you're actually using 5 different LoRas, you want to call it a protective headpiece and not like a helmet, because and this is like my speculation, but I feel like it's reasonable and it's probably true. When you have 5 different models in there and you're trying to get 4 lenses on that helmet, you also have to fight 4 different models, like understanding of what a helmet is as well, you know? So like, unless mine is like super like overtrained, it can overpower like that concept and win it. Like, let's not even fight on that concept. Like while other models might have a strong understanding of what a helmet is, almost none of them have like as strong of an understanding like as to a protective headpiece, which mine has like the strongest understanding to. So I don't even need to fight them on that concept, you know?
So then for your trigger word here, because I noticed too, because we actually, I think it was either on last week's stream or the week before. I think it was on last week's, because I used this LoRa to put, you know, the helmet on Santa while he was riding his sleigh. But when you put the trigger words like that, are you actually like saying that whole phrase is the trigger, or is that just comprised of a bunch of stuff that you figured out works to call it?
Most of it is consistent with the captioning in this case, but I actually if it was true to the now this one is more difficult because I actually made the attempt to like make the LoRa understand that nods, like where I have it with a 0, where it's like, you know, that is a concept of 2 different things. You know, it's the helmet, which I never say is a helmet, you know, and then it's also like the things that are attached to it, you know, because that way then I can specify aspects of it. I can say that like, you know, this portion is pink, but like the helmet is tan or something like that. And like that's one of the things that I realized from the first version of this model, that like I can't make, if I'm having trouble getting the lenses to do anything, I can't prompt it to help it along, because it doesn't understand it as a separate part, you know? So like what I did was in the training data as well, I actually had like like I would like refer to it with that long like phrase, right? That I'm saying like it's comprised of a protective headpiece, and then in front, like there's attached like optical like devices or something like that. Because you know, like this one's hard because you have to fight the concept of a helmet. And especially if you say a military helmet, that's a really strong concept that Flux has. It thinks of like GWatt era like bucket ones that don't have like the high cut, and like you're fighting that the whole way. So like on my first one, I had to fight it the entire way, and you could see that like it would just like over time like it finally get there, but then it was just like overfit on everything else in the captioning, you know. So I didn't even want to fight the concept of a helmet. Once you put it in military context, then Flux is going to think like, you know, military helmet, then you have to fight that. The other thing is like it has a strong concept of what goggles are, because in 99% of the time, like in language, we're talking about things that like go over your eyes, you know, like protective eyewear. So you have to fight that the whole way too, which is why the first one is not as like strong as this one. So I don't want to say goggles either. And that makes sense in like 99% of English like conversation, that when we're talking about goggles, we're not talking about two tubes sticking in front of your eyes. That's like, we think of those as binoculars, you know? So
yeah, for sure.
So the thing is like, this is like this one, I'm like, you have to dodge two ingrained concepts that Flux has. So one of the things was I also wanted to differentiate between the two different concepts. So like in all the captioning, it is almost that long, you know, and I'm saying that like it is comprised of these two different parts. It's attached on the front, and then I also gave it images of the nods by itself, you know, the night vision goggles by itself, and I'd say like this is a component of like the keyword nods, right? Like specifically this portion, and I would put that in the training data as well. And this one performs better than the previous one. So I think that you know, like this idea of like how to sidestep like modifying these ingrained concepts, like I've had success with it. So like I feel like I'm onto something. I'll actually say for the and a lot of this is just like through example, because that's if somebody's reading this, they're like, well, how do I apply it to my thing? It's just like, well, like it depends, right, on the concept. Sometimes you don't have to fight, like you don't have to do this. Like with AXOLOTL, I just say it's an AXOLOTL and it gets it. Because the thing is like it has a really weak understanding of it. Like it understands like SDXL does, and probably because the guys at Black Forest Lab used to work at, I think they used to work at like Stability AI or something like that. So like it has the same thing. So it doesn't understand what an AXOLOTL is, and it doesn't like it has the same issues with help. It had the same issues I talked about with the helmets and the goggles is the same ones that SDXL had as well. So what was I going to say? Like,
how big do you have a general size of how big you theorize the proper data set should be?
I have used so the thing is like the settings I show on that site, like on that article, are probably like terrible settings for Flux. They just happen to be ones that worked on the first AXOLOTL one, and I was just like, I'll just stick with these because these work, you know? Like I don't know, like it's kept a constant so I can compare like my different, because what I've really changed is my captioning strategy. With the Glock, like the shotgun one is the weakest one. That one was a little over 50 because I had trouble finding like shotguns and like that specific configuration where it wouldn't confuse it with it. Like there's no variations. That one was kind of weak, but it might have something to do with like the settings as well. But I know that the Glock one had more in I think it was like 70 or so. Yeah, I'll say that. Like I had like 70 and like it got weak at 50, but the issue with the shotgun one might just be like the quality of the data set, you know? What I'll say here is the cool thing about writing all of this is like there's a guy that actually commented on it, and I looked at his page and he writes like crazy like technical articles, and like all the way at the bottom he was saying he kind of just like broke it down in the like if you don't mind expanding it more. So he's like
this one,
yeah this like so on the last sentence of the first paragraph where I think this is like this sounds like a lot cleaner version of what I'm saying, where he goes, the majority of my actual working trainings are similar to what you did here, where everything is codenamed and cross-contaminated into the intended goal encodings, right? So like that sounds like a lot more technical, and like it's cool because I actually went and read, I was like, dude, this guy knows like so much. He's like doing crazy stuff, like trying to train. Like I'm like, I barely understand any of this. And well, it's cool because I'm like, this is exactly the kind of like comment I want. You know, it was just like, yeah, like you want like that makes sense, you know, and that's like and here's like the technical like way to say that. And this guy starts talking about like like trading like T5 and with clip L, and I'm like, it got me curious. So I started like reading into it, and some of the stuff I've read from this guy, I was just like, this might be really useful for training as well. Because one of the things that I picked up from what this guy was writing is he talks about like how you phrase things and then like how Flux fixates on things, right? Like the way the way you phrase it, like I know that there's like some like not safe for work stuff on there. Like,
I have my PG-13 filter turned on, but I just wanted to grab his profile to link people that would like to go visit his stuff.
I wanted there's two things that drive human innovation, like more than anything else, and it's warfare and porn. Pretty much, I realize, and that guy just like I've seen. Like, I'm just saying, like, he writes amazing articles. I just wanted to, like, warn you before you clicked on it, but then you clicked on it, you know? Yeah. He writes really good articles, and he was just talking about, like, how you, like, when you phrase things a certain way, you can reliably get, like, a certain, like, Flux behaves consistently depending on how you do it. Like, and it was, like, a really basic article about like object fixation, where it's just like if you say like an apple on a table versus there's like a giant table and then on top there's an apple or something like that. And I've been experimenting with some of that with my latest model, where it's just like the cheats one, where I'm just put it like it's like a detailer and enhancer or something like that. That has a lot of stuff going on in it, and then it like sometimes if you have a really specific model, like the details don't come out. And I was experimenting with like phrasing it in that same way that he was writing about, and I was getting a lot of success. And I almost wonder if you write your captioning that same way, where you fixate on the stuff that you want it to, if it learns it faster as well, So that's one of the, I'm hoping, I just want to train more stuff and like test like the theoretical stuff where it's not that technical, because I'm not really knowledgeable in that stuff. But if somebody knows better settings, well, using there, that'd be nice,
Well, I'll tell you what, I think the beauty of this stuff is how not technical you can be, and it actually, like, AI for me has helped me relearn, like it helped me relearn my ability to learn new things, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because it just goes to show that, like, when you find something you're passionate enough about, regardless of how much experience you have in it, like, you will learn it if you really want to.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's just interesting, like this aspect of it. What I'm interested in is like training concepts that Flux gets wrong all the time, and like oftentimes I have a feeling that they're like like the same kind of concept where it's just like really baked in, and it's just. But if you know what to do, like just sidestep it, right? Then we can do it. So one of the things I did after all, like getting the shotgun one too, so then I had already done it like 3 times at that point, was that I wondered, what if I trained a style exactly the way I trained a concept, So this one is like the weakest one. I think it comes down to the data set. Like the shotgun one is the weakest one, but I think it comes down to the data set more than anything else. But what I got curious, because it's just like the curiosity, like, what I got curious about was, what if I because I know how most people do styles, or I'm assuming how most people do styles is they just kind of get everything in the same style and they just kind of like generally describe it. They throw in their trigger word, So the one I'm talking about right now is that military, like that one, like that, this style, like the military contractor comic style BPRE. I mean, this emulates the art style. So I had the idea that, like, what if I trained a style like that? And what I mean by that is I'm saying that, like, I don't ever say the word. I tell to avoid the words illustration, painting, anything like that. I'm like, I want you to describe I want you to say that this is, BPRE art of, describe everything in it. And then I want you to say how the art style represents everything in the image. But I want you to avoid any, like, I don't want you to say graphic novel. I don't want you to say comic. I don't want you to say like any of those kinds of things, because one of the things I noticed on my first like AXOLOTL one is like I did just really crazy captioning because I was just trying to use free stuff, but it would say like, this is a digital illustration of X, Y, and Z. This is a painting of X, Y, and Z, And the thing is, when I use that model with other style models, right, and that one is a painting, and the worst case is like if the word painting is in the trigger word, that like I can't ever get like a 100% like mapping of their style onto that concept, because my model like already has an idea of what a painting is, what a digital painting is,
So you're saying you take your data set, you feed your data set into Chat GPT, and then through what you train the GPT on
I read
how
an
you want it to
instruction prompt,
describe it.
yeah.
Okay, and then GPT spits out the captions the way you're asking for them.
Yep.
Okay.
That's how I do it, like mechanically how I do it. But the strategy here is just to like also like sidestep, it's not like sidestepping, but I'm avoiding saying like anything, because Flux also has its own understanding of what a graphic novel looks like, what anime looks like, what all that stuff looks like. Now, here's the thing that I think that shows, well, like it reproduces the style really well. But if you want to scroll down just a tiny bit, I was wondering if I isolate like the style like that, right? Can I pull a concept out of this model that isn't the style? And that's like that image where it looks like it's a photorealistic. So like that, like AR is, Flux is not going to create that on its own, and it also doesn't create like that stance either. So that's like the stance that's like represented in all of the training data, which is like the modern one, which like you hold the thumb over the bore. Which is not how Flux does it, but this is how like it's represented there. So I was able to pull that concept out of there because I'm isolating like the concept that much. I think that's what I think, so I'm able to get the concept out of a style LoRA. And I almost think that if I took more care to do the same thing with each one of I can't do it as well with the helmets and stuff. It does like the helmets really well with the whole style, but it doesn't do it as well when you pull it out, right? But it's because like I looked through my captioning and I noticed that the captioning on like it calls that a carbine very often. Like, so then because it was so consistent that I was able to pull it out. And I almost think that if I was consistent with the wording and I like captioned like the headgear, everything like that the same way, where I didn't fight over like certain concepts that Flux has a strong understanding of, I could pull more pull concepts out of a style LoRA, where the concepts are consistent within it.
Dude, absolutely insane. I know just listening to you talk about this that I already have a couple ideas for things that I want to train in the future and how to go about doing it better. I hope everyone else got a couple nuggets as well. And also, guys, I put the link to that article in the chat so you can read about everything in depth and refer back to it. So what's the next evolution of what you're doing with LoRa's from everything you've learned up to this point now? What are you trying to do next?
You don't mind if I just kind of like, I can tie it all like this?
Go for it.
So the thing is like, I did this one, then I retrained the AXOLOTL Flux one. So then I saw the value in not saying this is a, like, you know what I mean? Like I want to teach it this concept. So I want to show it that concept in a bunch of mediums, but this time I didn't corner myself into saying this is like an oil painting of, I'm like, you can describe how it's represented without using those words. You can't don't say cartoon, don't say, graphic novel style, don't say digital paint, don't say any of that. And then basically what I did was I took it and then I took some of the generations I had from the previous version, same like seed, everything like that, used the other like models, and it pulled the other concepts. Like it just played a lot better with other models, especially style ones, right? So like the glass one, like that's literally like there's a generation on the previous version. I don't know how easy it is to find it, probably not, but that's what I was doing to see like how well this worked. But like the ones where I would use other LoRAs that would like, and I need them a lot, right? I'm either pulling a concept or a style from the other one. Like with these are just like essentially like generations I had done on the previous version there as well, where the style of the other one didn't come through as well. Like this Chinese like, traditional one, this one came out like way like better, because I would have to turn down the strength of my previous one too in order to get something even close. But now I can run this at full strength, and for the most part, it also depends on the other LoRA, But like if it's the other one's well trained, then they just work together really, really well. So, so I guess like putting that in there too is just like I think that it's good to avoid using like just broad terms for art styles, like line art, like painting, stuff like that, because that allows your concept to work with other styles like extremely well, because like it doesn't bring in the model's own understanding of what that means, and then it also kind of like avoids like Flux's understanding of it as well. So that's why I could never get the styles to like work to like reproduce on the previous versions, but this one it's a lot easier. And it works for like the part where I was like captioning it, like the stuff I was talking about before. It doesn't really apply here because it's actually like axolotls are not like a very contested idea in Flux, So that makes it a lot easier. but in theory, like it should just work for everything, right? If it works really well for contested ideas, it should just work for like, it just should also work for everything else. So the safe thing to do, I think, is just to always adopt the strategy is to treat it like you're teaching it a new concept, and then just like taking care to not give it associations between the concept that you might be fighting over, you know?
Dude, these are all so awesome, and what's even better is like the variety of compositional styles you're able to get out of it.
Yeah, that's one of the nice. Yeah, that's why I'm happy with this one, is because I can use other ones, and then I can also leverage Flux's understanding of these concepts a lot better. Because on the early ones, I'm just saying like tilt shift by itself, like if Flux understands what that is. On my previous one, like you wouldn't get it, you know. So when you like avoid like those pitfalls that I was talking about, where you like kind of corner it into it, like the model having its own understanding of certain art styles, I think that you can like I realized I was getting a lot more use out of the model without any other LoRAs as well. I could just use like Flux's like good understanding of stuff and apply it there. This is not the case for a lot of the images you're showing, because why, like, you know, why just do like vanilla when you can just play with other people's models as well, you know? So, but that's what I noticed, is that like I was getting a lot more use of it on its own as well. It's not just about being better at playing with other models.
So sick, man. So sick. I don't even think we're going to get to talk about video stuff today, but in general, to bring your stuff to life, what are you liking the most?
I haven't. So I was using Cog a bunch, but it's like the all the paid for stuff is just getting so much better, like so fast.
Yeah.
You know? Like, so I've been focused mostly on just like my experience through this, and then reading that guy's like technical articles. Like it just gave me a lot more ideas. And then, well, one of the things was just like I need to get some like concepts are cool, and that's what I'm interested in. Like it's like these hard to train concepts, but they don't really make you anything. You know what I mean? So that's why I made like the detailer like stylizer one. You know, because that's why I made. Oh, hold on, let me back up. That's why I made the graphic novel one, the comic one first. But that's also, and then I made it, and I was like, this is also like super niche, and it's not really like making that much either. And I'm like, I need to actually try to make something that like is has a little bit more mass appeal. And then I just I got the idea to apply, like what if I take a bunch of images that have nothing to do with each other, you know? And then I also avoid like cornering myself into any of those concepts that Flux has, but I'm extremely exhaustive in captioning everything in like very general terms, right? And I was just like, well, like in my head, the idea was just like, if I like caption this like crazy and I avoid like, I think that was just Civits like kind of going nuts, dude. I'm not posting anything crazy on my show. You know what I mean? But what if I did that and then they weren't related at all? Because then I can cover a wide range of words. So then I can have like a really like significant effect on any like generation, right? Like, so like if we look at the comparisons, it like significantly changes the composition of the image. And the one thing that the data set does have in common is that I liked how the pictures looked. So then I'm just like, well, what if this thing just makes everything like more like how I want it to look, you know? Like these interesting images that have nothing to do with each other. That's what I did the first time, and it didn't make like, that one never got published because the hands were all messed up, because the thing I realized is just like, okay, I need to make sure that there's plenty of pictures of hands doing things in like scenarios where I would want them, right? Because as soon as the hands get messed up in this, then like, it's never seeing the light of day.
Yeah.
So like my advice is, if anybody's trying to do something like this, is that like think about what like if you're making this for yourself and there's things that you often want to put in hands, like get the good images of that and make it like, this is 55 images. I think 15 had like really good, like where like all the fingers were present, like, and make sure that there's no like bad hands in any of them either, you know? Because I did like a lot of like really like, there's a lot of like things, just abstract kind of things, you know? And there just wasn't that many close up of like human hands. There was like a lot of like, you know, monstrous kind of things. And so it never got the chance to learn hands, you know? And so it would just keep messing up hands the more it got trained. So that's what I learned, is like, if you want to do something like this, like nobody, like, you get what I'm saying. You test something, the hands gonna come up messed up every time. You just wasted your time training that thing, you know? So And I cheated because I do a lot of like, people holding guns. So there's a lot of that was biased towards like holding a gun. So then it gets that correct pretty often. I think it gets it like more correct than Flux on its own. So that's nice. And then it kind of stylizes everything else. So what I realized, so this is like there's like no central theme. It's just a bunch of stuff. So I'm probably hitting a bunch of words. I noticed when I was like testing the epochs, I would just grab random prompts, and sometimes they'd be like some SDXL or Pony, the Pony prompts are especially crazy. They're not sentences, right? And it would just come up with wild, completely different things, and but all of it looked cool because I fed it images that I thought were cool, So if you scroll like further down, that's what I've been mostly doing like lately. Is just like I literally just like have a wildcard node, and I put together a bunch of unrelated wildcards. And then what I do is I find an image where like I like the art style of. I have GPT like describe it vaguely, and then I append it at the end. And if like I saw this pink and blue one, you'll see that like a little bit further down and then right here is like I find this art style that I like, and this is what I was doing was I was just using a bunch of random wildcards that make no sense, Like I would pre-pend it with like a Glock or something like that, and then it would get it correctly because like it also like is pretty good at doing hands holding guns on its own. And it would just do crazy stuff like this, It would try to fit everything in the image, but it would be its own modified understanding of it based off of like the fact that I just traded across a bunch of different words,
Yeah, dude, so, I love these.
Yeah, I was having a lot of fun with it because you just get something different every single time, something crazy, and then like I think like almost all of them I really like too. Like I mean, you see a bunch here. There's a bunch that I didn't even bother like publishing.
I think when I was scrolling through earlier before the stream, this one's my favorite.
Yeah, I think I like that one a lot too. I think like where it gets less abstract is when I'm giving it guidance with what I'm pre-pending it with, where I'm just like, hey, I kind of want this one to be a portrait because my idea is just like, well, I want to get some good hands so that maybe I can use all these because it's consistent enough to create its own style, So that's what I noticed as well is that like, so this one I was using one like the same like appended kind of like description of the art style. And you can see that like they're like close-ish enough to like maybe try to like use as training data for a style. So it's consistent enough to do that. So I think that's a result of kind of like the captioning strategy where it's just like it can understand. I don't know. Actually, I have no idea. Like, I don't know where I'm going. But like the style seems like kind of consistent. It's like it goes crazy on ideas, but like it understands what you want when you describe this style, So that's like the end result that I see out of it. That was something that I was like, wait, it goes crazy whenever I give it some like pony prompt. Why don't I just make like some actual crazy prompt and see what it does, So. All right. You do it, Ray.
Yeah, good. Yeah, nice, Ray. No, dude, super awesome. Wait, did I just see mochis? Oh, I love it. I
like to run my original, like I had like a few original Flux prompts before any LoRa's came out, and I have it in a wildcard file, and then I just like run it through like whenever. So I know how like I get a really good idea of how like different LoRa's react to things like I've seen a bunch of times, like a bunch of the prompts I've used a bunch of times, that is, so I can see how they all like react to it differently.
Well, guys, Schmede just posted this LoRa on December 20th. I put the link in the chat for everyone. Add this to some of your existing generations and see how much cooler they can get.
Appreciate it.
Schmede, dude, thank you so much. This was epic. I feel like we all just got a masterclass.
Well, I'll say this: like, a lot of this stuff is speculation. I really recommend the one guy who commented, like he writes like good articles, and I'm like, dude, I actually even comment. I'm like, it's crazy. Like, more people should see the stuff that you're writing. So, like, I think, and that's gonna like drive the direction of like what I kind of want to test, some of the stuff that I want to test out on, as well as like based off of what I read from his technical understanding. A lot of the stuff I'm doing is just like I'm guessing. It's like assumptions. I feel like they're reasonable assumptions with the amount of knowledge that I have. But it's like not technical, but I think I'm getting consistent enough results that like there might be some weight behind it.
Well, I'll tell you what, anytime you feel like you crack the code on something and you get really excited and you want to share it, all you got to do is say the word and we can definitely circle back anytime you want to.
I appreciate it.
Is there any final, I know you don't really have social media, so instead I'm going to ask everyone to go ahead and follow Schmede on Civitai. His profile is pinned to the top of the Twitch chat. So go ahead and follow him. You're obviously going to want to keep up with his articles as well as the new LoRa's and models he drops. But is there anyone you want to give a shout out to, or just any
let me shout out other people. Like
yeah.
I mean, there's been a group of people that like they've reached out to me, like have helped me with a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna feel bad if I start listening afterwards. I'm gonna miss somebody. So you people know who you are. I appreciate all your help. I'm gonna sidestep that to like a different kind of social group. Let me shout out like my boy. Do you mind bringing up his profile? This guy, like, do you still have it up?
Yes.
Yeah. Boom. So this guy, like, he's been making stuff. He makes bangers and he doesn't publish them. And like his stuff is really good, and you should check it out. Like, dude just post fire, but he like literally hoards it all in his computer. And I have a feeling that if he just gets like a bunch of reactions to his stuff, then maybe we'll convince him to like get on and just start actually sharing with the rest of us, like the bangers he makes, And
I'm sure a bunch of you guys saw this one featured on the homepage some time ago. So go ahead and give Sweeney Honks a follow so that he can feel motivated to actually post more of the stuff that he makes.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for like featuring all my stuff.
No, dude, this was epic. I am constantly looking out for people that are doing really cool things that also have really great attitudes in the community to bring on and just chat with us so we can not only learn some stuff from you, but also I think it's really great for people to get a sense of like who's behind the stuff that really makes the community what it is. So thank you so much. I know that sometimes if like you're not really big on social, you try to stay away from the social media side of things, it gets a little like, I don't know if I want to come sit on the stream and be on camera and do that whole thing. So I really appreciate it. I could tell from reading the chat this entire stream that they really appreciate it. And yeah, man, I definitely want to have you on again. We will definitely circle back. So you just let me know when you have something exciting that you think everyone will like, and we can do a stream to debut it.
All right. Thank you very much. And thanks for everybody in chat. I used to stream and I was way better at reading chat back then. I haven't done it in a while. I think I've just been mostly ignoring it, but oh man, it's like 700 people. That's the most I've ever streamed to, I guess. Like, that's cool. Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah. No, Schmede, thank you so much. Let me just do the sign off here real quick. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be my last stream with you all until Christmas. So if that is something you guys celebrate, then I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday. Next week, Friday, guys, you're not going to want to miss it. Sir Dushan is coming back on, and it's going to be probably a much longer stream than we're used to. Him and I are going to be building a collaborative video using AI from my side and After Effects from his side. And we're going to be building our collaboration live on stream, going back and forth, riffing ideas and building the actual video that will eventually go on social media. So if you guys are into that kind of nerdy stuff and really getting a sense of what it takes to make something like that, then you're definitely going to want to be here next Friday for that. Yeah, guys, have a happy holiday. This is Civitai.com. Follow us on all the socials at Hello Civitai. Follow Schmede on Civitai. His link is pinned to the top of Twitch. Schmede, thank you so much again, my friend. You are a legend. And that's it. We're out. Guys, have a wonderful weekend and a Merry Christmas. Peace. Schmede, hang on for just a second here. Boom.
All right.